Well, hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to be giving you tips for how to maintain lip fullness without getting any procedures, no Botox, no filler. Today's video is in partnership with Peak Tea. You guys know I'm a huge fan of their teas. I've been drinking them for years. What keeps me going back to them time and time again is their unique cold crystallization methodology allows for these tea crystals that are packed with antioxidants. And I really love that they dissolve quickly in either hot or cold water. So it makes it really easy to have an iced tea or a hot tea. Drinking tea is wonderful because teas are packed with antioxidants that help reduce inflammation throughout the body. And that's really helpful for warding off the visible signs of photoaging. Peak teas are triple toxin screen for heavy metals, toxic mold, and pesticides. They have over 20 award-winning flavors, and I really love that they have a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. So if you don't like the tea, then you can send it back and get your money back. Over the past few months, I have pretty much had their Sun Goddess matcha every single day. It is the best matcha tea I've ever had. It's super smooth, 100% organic ceremonial grade matcha, and it has L-theanine in it, which kind of has a calming effect to it. Matcha tea is packed with antioxidants, e.g. CG, wonderful for helping to fight off inflammation. Their electric turmeric is one of my favorites. I like to have that as a latte sometimes. It's got fermented Okinawan turmeric, which has curcumins in it that are anti-inflammatory. I also enjoy their ginger elixir tea, and they've got fermented teas called pu'er teas, really delicious, and the fermentation process enriches for prebiotics and postbiotics. So I really have been enjoying those teas, a very delicious, bold flavor profile. And if you're a fan of iced tea, I highly suggest the Hibiscus Beauty Elixir. It's delicious, either hot or cold, but especially cold. And hibiscus tea is packed with vitamin C, which is necessary for healthy collagen production and healing from injury in the skin. Really delicious though. Highly recommend it. For a limited time, Peak is offering a great deal. You can get 5% off plus free shipping. That's a $7.99 value. And you can also get a free sample pack of 6 of their best sellers. You spend $120 or more. Regardless of what you purchase, you can use my code Dr. Dray and get 5% off of Peak Tea. With age, it's normal for our lips to thin. It's just a natural process. If you have thin lips to begin with, that's going to be more noticeable with time. You need to know a few things about the anatomy of the skin of the lips. It's much different than the skin of the rest of your face. There are no sebaceous oil glands, so there's really nothing to keep the skin of the lips lubricated other than saliva, which unfortunately is actually very irritating to the skin of the lips. So you always are kind of dealing with a tendency towards dryness, water loss, irritation, because as saliva deposits on the skin of the lips, it pulls more water out of the skin as it's evaporating, and saliva has compounds in it that are actually kind of irritating when left on the skin. There are no hair follicles, which is why we don't have hair on our lips, and there is hardly any of that pigment melanin, and that is what helps protect our skin from the damaging effects of ultraviolet radiation. If you recall from my videos on the structure of the skin, you have the epidermis and the dermis, and the epidermis has this kind of dead layer on top that acts as a shield. It's called the stratum corneum. Lips don't have that. And because of that, they're a lot more prone to irritation, water loss, and they're a lot more vulnerable to damage from environmental stressors, including ultraviolet radiation, especially since there's very little pigment there. When we think of fullness, probably what comes to mind is collagen. And yes, age-related change results in decline in collagen production, and of course that's going to show up in your lips. But you also have something behind the lips called a fat pad that is what gives the lips a full look. It decreases in size as you get wiser. So it's normal to lose facial volume, but it's not all due to collagen loss. A lot of it is due to redistribution of fat and changes in the underlying bone structure. So ultimately that's going to contribute to the appearance of thinning of the lips. Good news, when it comes to being proactive about how to minimize volume loss from the lips, very few skincare products are required. First and foremost, you absolutely need to protect the skin of your lips from the sun. There's very little pigment there to protect you. And skin cancers on the lips are very common. And of course, ultraviolet radiation destroys the collagen. Now, I get questions all the time. Can we just use our regular sunscreen on our lips? Absolutely, you can. But remember, the skin of the lips is much different than the skin of the rest of the face. And as a result, I find personally that most facial sunscreens are kind of drying actually for the lip skin. They often also are pretty irritating, especially chemical sunscreens that have oxybenzone in them. I do suggest using a dedicated SPF lip balm. The other advantage of this is it is easier to touch up just your lips. The sunscreen on your lips is gonna rub off a lot more frequently than the rest of your face. So it's just something convenient to have on hand, an SPF lip balm. Y'all know, I mean, you're probably expecting me to mention this, and that is the Vanicream Lip SPF. This is wonderful. It's very moisturizing. It has very minimal ingredients. It's a mineral sunscreen and it offers very good protection. It's water resistant. Now it goes on white, but it does fade down and it kind of just gives the skin of the lips a pinkish hue. I really like it. It's also wonderful to use around the delicate skin of your eyelids, especially if you find that most sunscreens burn and sting there. And of course, avoiding peak sun exposure times, which typically are midday. You don't want to stay out too long, get too much UV exposure. And a broad brimmed hat, depending on the size of the brim, can also offer a little bit of sun protection as well, at least from UV rays that are coming from up above, not necessarily UV rays that are reflected up off the ground, but that also can help ward off sun damage to the lips that contributes to thinning and skin cancer risk. When you get a skin cancer on the lips, it's actually very challenging to remove it, and you have to have a special type of surgery to correct it. And because if you can imagine, there's very little wiggle room to piece back together the skin without disrupting the function of your mouth. Do your best to protect your lips from those damaging UV rays. It's more than just cosmetic, it's about preserving function. If you didn't already know this, smoking is probably the worst thing you can do for your overall health, as well as the look and appearance and function of your skin. Cigarettes, vaping, these things do have carcinogenic compounds that generate a lot of free radical damage, and the skin of the lips is going to be most vulnerable to that. Smokers have noticeable lines, they're called smoker's lines, around the mouth from repetitive sucking on the cigarette and all that deposition of those harmful compounds in tobacco smoke, not to mention deprivation of oxygen from nicotine. And so don't smoke. I don't think many of you do, but I do know that some of you are really trying very hard to quit. And I encourage you to keep trying to quit smoking and try as many times as you need to in order to quit, because it is more than just keeping your lips full. It's all about, not having chronic diseases and developing lung cancer and dying prematurely. Speaking of repetitive sucking motion from something like a cigarette, this is something that I think is a bit of a possible myth. And I say possible because I don't see any research to support this statement that a lot of people make, including many derms that I've seen interviewed, that repetitive drinking through a straw contributes to loss of volume in the lips and wrinkles around the lips. Of course, any repetitive motion over time will contribute to natural age-related wrinkle formation. But I don't think likening sucking from a straw to smoking a cigarette, I don't think they're the same mechanism at all, because when you're drinking through a straw, you're not depriving the skin and the lips of oxygen, you're not depleting the antioxidant reservoir in the skin, and you're not, sucking on carcinogens. I mean, depending on what your beverage of choice is, you're not sucking on carcinogens. So bottom line, I don't think you need to stop drinking through a straw. That seems extreme and not evidence-based. I mean, we don't have any studies comparing people who drink through a straw versus people who don't and examining the wrinkle formation and loss of volume from the lips. So I think that is a stretch to say that sucking through a straw contributes to that. Repetitive motions on the face, like grimacing, scowling, that contribute to frown lines, you can make a case there for being more conscientious and mindful of those motions to reduce the formation of those wrinkles. But when we're talking about a movement that isn't, part of your everyday life, I really think you're gonna find that cutting out straws is not really going to get you striking results. But I don't have a study to back that up. It's just my opinion personally that it's fine to continue to drink from a straw or drink out of a water bottle. I've seen people comment, isn't that going to contribute to little wrinkles around the lips? Focus on the big ticket items that definitely really accelerate the rate of wrinkle and volume loss formation around the lips. And that's going to be sun exposure and of course smoking if you smoke. I mentioned that fat pad underneath the lips. That is going to decrease in size as part of natural aging. Is there anything that you can do or put on your lips to prevent loss of that? Not really. But of course, lifestyle factors do play a role. If you have a sedentary lifestyle, you're not very active, and you eat a poor diet and you drink alcohol in excess, those lifestyle factors, they do result in more prominent and earlier onset signs of photoaging, volume loss. So it's more so the lifestyle factors, and of course your genetics, which you can't really change. I know that's not a satisfactory answer, but I wouldn't focus too much on trying to avoid loss of fat and volume loss in the face, other than doing your best to lead a healthy or as healthy of a lifestyle as you can. Of course, not obsessing over it, enjoying things in moderation. But yeah, I mean, there's really nothing that you can do to prevent the diminished size of that fat pad under the lips. Speaking of healthy diet, in the description box, I'm going to link my video on the best foods for building healthy, strong collagen. So check that out. Those are foods that you might want to consider incorporating into your diet in some frequency if you haven't already, because they do have a lot of anti-inflammatory compounds that may help in reducing the burden of oxidative stress in the skin that comes about as a result of exposure to environmental stressors like, of course, UV and pollution. Consuming fruits and vegetables actually can help your skin better handle the damaging effects of ultraviolet radiation. It actually raises what's called the minimal erythematous dose. The minimal erythematous dose, or MED, is the dose of UV that we can see starting to begin to damage your skin in the form of redness. And you can raise that, meaning more UV is necessary to get to that threshold, by eating fruits and vegetables. And of course, they reduce inflammation, chronic inflammation in the body. It does end up affecting all organ systems, including your skin and those underlying fat pads. You know, it just makes sense to eat a healthy diet. Foods that are rich in sugar, refined sugars, they can contribute to the formation of what are called advanced glycation end products that do contribute to volume loss and wrinkling in the skin. I have a whole video on the worst foods for collagen, which I also will link down below. Things like packaged pastries. Fine to incorporate those in moderation as a treat, but I would, you know, if they're part of your everyday meals, might want to rethink that. So everybody on social media likes to tout the benefits of collagen supplements. Collagen supplements, there is actually some research to suggest that they can be absorbed into the gut and localized to the skin, and in small studies, there is some suggestion that they do help in improving the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. However, the studies are difficult to draw meaningful conclusions from because of several limitations. They're small, poorly controlled. There's a lot of variability from study to study in terms of what type of collagen peptide they're using, the amount. So I don't push or recommend strongly collagen peptides, but if you take them, you know, that is up to you. Their side effects can include some GI upset, but otherwise they appear to be, at this point, relatively innocuous. Likewise, dietary hyaluronic acid supplements also have been shown to improve the hydration status of the skin, and that can help the lips look just more hydrated, fuller. But the dietary supplement, in my opinion, that has strong research to suggest that it may help in reducing the burden of UV damage is polypodium. I have a whole video on it. It's the brand name is HelioCare. And so if you're looking for something to use in conjunction with sunscreen, remember it's not a replacement for sunscreen, that may help in reducing the burden of UV damage after, you know, spending time outdoors, then that would be one to consider. But to what extent that will minimize visible signs of aging around the mouth and volume loss, there's no studies to back that up. So that would be one that is at least more evidence-based. So check out that video. It's another one I'll link down below in the description box for you to watch. All right, what about those active ingredients I'm always raving about that help boost up collagen production in the deeper layers of the skin? Things like retinol or prescription retinoids, tretinoin, alpha hydroxy acids. Unfortunately, these anti-aging ingredients, they're much too irritating to be tolerated on the delicate skin of the lips. It doesn't have that top dead layer like the rest of your face does. So if you've ever used those ingredients on your face and they've made their way down to your lips, you know you can get a lot of dryness and peeling of the lips, chapped lips, and it can actually, that dryness around the lips can make the lips temporarily look a lot smaller and narrower just because it's tight and dry. So no, I don't recommend using those there unless you have been instructed to, you know, they've been prescribed to you to use there by a board, you know, by your dermatologist or physician, because in some cases we do use those ingredients to treat pre-skin cancers around the mouth. So of course, you know, in that case, obviously follow the treating advice of your healthcare provider and use prescriptions according to how they were prescribed. But just for, you know, everyday cosmetic reasons, then generally no, they're too irritating for the delicate skin of the lips. Now, people who wear lipstick and lip products, unfortunately the ingredients in those products can end up being irritating. You can develop an allergy to them. Things like phthalates in a lot of lipsticks, but truthfully, they do offer a little bit of sun protection. And so, you know, people who wear lipstick, you know, that may offer some protection. And the other type of protection that you may be getting is protection from visible light from the sun or blue light, which does cause oxidative stress in the skin that can contribute to skin aging, including volume loss of the lips. It's becoming more common knowledge that you need to wear sunscreen to protect your skin from the sun. People are adapting to the idea of this as opposed to in the past, but most people don't really think about putting sunscreen on their lips. But people who wear lipstick, which is more common, they at least may have been getting some more protection along the way in comparison to just the non-lipstick population who never wears either lipstick or sunscreen on their lips. Now, I always emphasize to you guys the importance of a good night's sleep. That is really important for repairing damaged collagen in the skin and for fighting off some of the oxidative stress from throughout the day. It is when the skin barrier recovers and you tend to lose a lot more water out of the skin, including the skin of the lips as you sleep. But when we sleep and our skin is recovering, as a result, we lose more water and the skin can become dry. And the lips, remember, they don't have sebaceous oil glands. They have no stratum corneum, top dead layer. They're going to lose even more water. So one thing I highly suggest doing before you go to bed at night, I mean, it serves multiple functions, is to apply a petrolatum ointment. Can be just plain, oh, I don't have it out here, just plain Vaseline petrolatum, or you guys know I'm a huge fan of the CeraVe healing ointment, and I'll explain more in a moment why this in particular is good for the lips. But yeah, I mean, that will really help to put the brakes on water loss out of the skin of the lips. Dry skin is more prone to irritation, and that chronic stress from the dryness and irritation, one can imagine how that would contribute to volume loss in the skin of the lips. The other advantage of applying a petrolatum ointment to the lips, especially at nighttime, is that if you drool in your sleep, you know, and saliva gets on the lips, well, as I said earlier, that's going to evaporate and pull more water out. So this will actually protect your skin from the saliva. And it also will protect your skin from any skincare products that you may have used on the rest of your face that are too irritating for the skin of the lips. So really good idea to put on an ointment to the lips before bed. And it's actually a really good lip balm if you ever find that you have chapped lips, to just use Vaseline. No irritating ingredients, and really just puts the brakes on water loss. I mean, it acts like second skin for your lips. Very good. It's also very good if you get cracking in the corners. I have a whole video on that, by the way, angular cheilitis. So check that out. But this is a very good, you know, product to use, either this or Vaseline, or a lot of people like Aquaphor. That's another option, unless you're allergic to lanolin. Then Aquaphor has lanolin in it, but that's another option. I mean, any ointment. Other ingredients that you can look for in lip products that are helpful include peptides, hyaluronic acid, glycerin, because these kind of help pull some water into the epidermis and just kind of smooth things out and plump things out a little bit. Now, this particular product I really like by CeraVe, because not only does it have petrolatum to really put the brakes on water loss out of the skin of the lips, it also has ceramides in it, which we have learned a lot in more recent years are helpful when applied topically for helping with skin barrier recovery. Now, the other advantage of this product is that it has hyaluronic acid in it, which can kind of help in holding hydration in the skin. Speaking of plumping the lips, I discourage using lip plumpers because they have basically irritants in them that cause localized irritation to the skin of the lips, and that is why they plump up your lips. And they bring in more blood, so your lips look, you know, redder, pinker, and cosmetically that I understand is appealing, but it can be very irritating to your lips, and you can end up developing an allergy to those ingredients. I mean, it just ends up causing a lot of irritation. I know they're popular, but I don't recommend them. The other device I do not recommend are those, these were really popular on the internet for a while. There were some kind of lip plumping suction device that you would put on, and it would create a suction to create localized tissue edema, basically, and give a temporary look of a fuller lip. Those actually, I mean, one could imagine that that kind of suction on the skin of the lips actually could just accelerate the rate of collagen loss from the lips and ultimately end up thinning the lips. Not to mention you can develop what's called suction purpura or a bruise around the mouth. I mean, those are not a good idea either. That TikTok trend that the FDA warned against of using the Hyaluron pen for DIY lip filler, that is not the way to go. I know lip fillers are expensive, out of people's budget, but do not go that route because that pen, that jet injector, is not intended for use for filler placement. You'd have no control of where the filler goes, and the filler that these people are acquiring is not, in many cases, is adulterated with contaminants, can completely disfigure you. Check that video out. I know I'm plugging a lot of my videos, but they tie into what I'm talking about here. The other lip at-home treatment type of thing, microneedling the lips. I don't recommend at-home microneedling because A, of the potential for infection, and B, the at-home microneedling devices, they're not really calibrated properly. The needles dull very easily, and so you can develop a lot of problems, and your lips are even more vulnerable to damage from those. So I don't recommend doing those yourself. I know a lot of people do them, but that's just my recommendation, to not put yourself at risk for skin infections, granulomas, and you know, hyperpigmentation, discoloration from using those. All right, you guys, so that is the video on how to keep your lips looking fuller longer. I hope this was helpful to you. Don't forget to check out Peak Tea, and you can save 5% with my code. Now on the end slate, I'm going to put a video on fading lip hyperpigmentation. I know a lot of you guys deal with that. I'm getting a lot of questions about that. So check that video out if you've got some hyperpigmentation around the lips that you're looking to fade. But if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.